Today we talk about Black House by Stephen King and Peter Straub, a liminal place and space that is infinitely large inside, and you don't want to get lost in there. And our journey through this book will eventually lead us there. But it is a place betwixt and between that does not want to be found. It's a portal to another place and a dimension in time and space, and a window back into the territories. So this is the second book in the Talisman Trilogy. In this book, we come back to see Jack Sawyer now that he is grown, and he is, I believe he's like 34 in this. He's a retired LA detective. He's moved to Wisconsin because he came to the place originally helping out on a case, fell in love with it, and ended up staying there. Just he felt like it was coming home. Jack, in the first Talisman book, had been like 12 years old, and he went on this pretty much epic quest to save, I would say, the world, but also to save his mother and to rid us of the scourge that was his evil Uncle Morgan. It was quite the tome of a book, and it was quite a wild ride. It's a dark fantasy, and I would call this whole like trilogy set like dark fantasy tinged with horror. And I mean, what is dark fantasy if not horror with a more fantastical edge to it? So we return to Jack Sawyer, and at this point in time in his life, he has basically like forgotten everything that happened to him. He's forgotten about the territories. He's tried to shut it all down. Like, no, that doesn't exist. It was all a dream, something that he made up in his mind that he closed the doors on as he became an adult. The problem is he's going to have to wake back up because there's these crimes that start happening in the town where he lives, and his friend, who is the chief of police, Dale Gilbertson, needs his help because there are crimes that have been happening around the town of French Landing that are very similar to some crimes that were committed by this guy Albert Fish from like 75 years ago. Children are being taken and murdered and partially consumed. So we have a cannibal child killer on the loose. Jack really doesn't want to get pulled into this, but he finds himself pulled into it anyways. He's going to awake back up to the fact that the territories exist. He's going to have to start remembering things that happened to him in the past so that he can help out here in the future. We come into the story. You have like different sound bites and stuff from different people in town, kids who were taken. You hear about the crimes that have happened. And then the son of this man, Fred, who is it seems like he's like a tractor salesman of some sort. So he sells like tractors and John Deere sort of things. And then his wife's name is Judy. Judy seems like she might have a foot in both worlds of here in the territories, although she's never been there. But she has some weird stuff that's coming through, and Fred's starting to think like she's losing her mind a little bit. They have a son named Tyler, and then Tyler ends up being taken. And Judy seemed to know before that he was taken that this was going to happen. Like she almost had like some sort of weird premonition. And so once he's taken, Dale calls up Jack and he's like, hey, I just want you to help with this, do. And he convinces them just to come meet with Fred. Now, Fred is a very, very likable man. Jack meets Fred and then he immediately really likes him and he decides that he wants to help him. And then eventually he meets Judy and he feels like he has this weird connection to Judy as well. Judy has a twinner, and her twinner is in the territories. Jack also has been having these like what he thought were like these waking dreams where he kept finding like weird like blue robin's eggs like in his fridge and in his truck, and he's like kind of freaked out about it, but like trying to ignore. And then like these red feathers were like drifting down out of nowhere. And he kept seeing like all these signs, but he was like, no, blah, 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 like shut your eyes, close your ears, refusing to hear. He also has this friend, Henry Lydon, who is probably one of my favorite characters in this book. And Henry Lydon is a radio DJ for this small town, and he has like 4 different personas. Very few people know that he has these like 4 different personalities, but they come out when they come out. And he has different radio shows based on that. He's also blind. So in other areas, he's very sensitive to things and picks up on things that most other people won't pick up on. So if anyone is and would be willing to believe and encourage Jack about opening up and talking about the territories and this, that, and the other, it's probably going to be Henry Lydon. So you have him also kind of nudging Jack to, take up your old mantle and help out with these crimes to try and stop this horribleness that's happening with the fishermen. So yeah, he meets Fred, the father of Tyler, and then he meets Judy, and between the two of them, he like promises them that he's gonna bring their son back. And to do that, he's gonna have to go to the territories because their son is not being kept here. And like Judy's saying all kinds of like weird cryptic stuff like Gorg fascinated him and took him to Abala and this, that, and the other. And a lot of it sounds like nonsense and gibberish. And then Judy ends up being like thrown into like a lunatic ward. But Jack can see that she's not crazy. He is going to reopen his mind and then realize that he has the ability to flip back and forth into the territories, and he'll start to remember all the things and the people that he had met along the way and loved and lost, and he'll remember Wolf and his time with him and just all this other stuff about the territories. But it takes his stubborn butt a while to get back to that place. There's also these other like big burly biker dudes that they work for this Kingsland brewery and they brew beer, and one of those men, their daughter was taken and murdered. So you have her, and then you have this other woman who was this other child that was taken and murdered as well, Irma Freno's mother. She lives in a trailer park, and she kind of gets out there and goes a little crazy because the person or the fisherman who is taking these children is actually a man who's kind of possessed, and he's taking some of them. He puts them in this other place, which is the territories, but it's also in the in-between places at this black house. And it's up to Jack and Dale and the people of the town to try and find Tyler in the hopes that he's still alive. And Tyler is a very special case because Tyler's a breaker. And if you've read The Dark Tower, you know, the breakers were trying to break the beams, and they would take the children who were special to try to break the beams to basically destroy the world and everything that we've known. And so if Tyler is actually taken to the territories to be a breaker, it'll be really bad because he's one of the strongest to ever have existed. And so that's another reason that Jack gets pulled back into this. And there's so much that's leaning towards the Dark Tower in this. I read this second one because the third book in the trilogy comes out in October. I'm super excited for it. I liked this one more than the first one, but the first one I felt like it was such a different animal. This one was a lot faster paced. I was pulled into the story right away. I love how much the Dark Tower is interwoven with this, and the characters are fantastic. The story is highly disturbing. It's effed up. Was it a satisfying ending? Yes and no, right? But there's going to be another book. So, and from what I'm to understand too, this book is also like going to be like part the final leg of also the Dark Tower as well as the Talisman. So somehow this all kind of like ties together. I saw something on the internet that Stephen King had said. So yeah, I'm very excited for it. Like, I have been a big fan of King's dark fantasy. Love the Dark Tower. Talisman series has been great. I will say that the first Talisman book was definitely a lot harder to get through than this one. The first one, it took me maybe 2 months to read it, I think. I'd pick it up, put it down, pick it up, put it down, because it's huge. And then this one, Black House, was also pretty huge. But this one, I picked it up, read a little bit, set it down. But then when I picked it up again, I like flew through the rest of it. It had that like, if you've ever watched the show Twin Peaks or are a fan of David Lynch, Black House had a very like Lynchian vibe to it. So, you know, you have Black House, it's this liminal space, and that's where Jack and the people he gathers with him are going to have to go to try to get Tyler at the end. And like, how are they going to get through the Black House? You know, Jack is special though. He's been to the territories. He has these abilities that most don't have. So they're going to stumble their way through and try to figure out and not get lost inside this Black House. Because as I said in the beginning of this video, that the Black House is this like infinite place of many different doorways and hallways and stairways and ups and downs and sideways, and it's like from the outside you can't really tell. So almost like a labyrinth of sorts. If you like dark fantasy, if you like weird books, if you have read the first Talisman and you haven't read Black House, I would say like I liked this one. I don't know if I'd say I'd like it better, but it was a different animal and it was more fast paced, so it was easier to get into the story. And like I said, I flew through this one. I like the pacing, I like the writing, the characters were great. I loved that it had to do with the Dark Tower. There's just so many elements to it that I really enjoyed. Curious to see how book 3 will be. And when that comes out, we'll read it, and then, you know, we'll have another thing and we'll let you know. So if any of that sounds good to you, definitely check it out. And if you enjoyed hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.